Doing it's the Butcher here, and today I have the next installment in my series getting ready for Abattoir. This time with the Necromancer class, and we're going to be running Bone Spear. So yeah, if you've been following along, you kind of know how this works. So I am going to be including Uber Uniques on the build, which in this case we're running 2.5. But I will be giving alternatives to all Uber Uniques. However, regular Uniques I will not because they are very easy to target farm in the way this game works. So without kind of further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into the skill tree, Vampiric powers, Book of the Dead, gear, and then show off some gameplay of it and show just some little mechanics. That's why I'm in the little training zone here. So skill tree, pretty straightforward, and again you'll see the +4 because we are wearing a Shaco. But we're taking 1 into Bone Splinters, 1 into Enhance to get down to Bone Spear, taking 5 into that, into Paranormal, 3 into Unliving Energy, 3 into Imperfectly Balanced, 3 into Huge Flesh, which is going to be very big, specifically against single targets and against bosses. We are using Corpse Explosion. We aren't putting any points into it, however. This will be on your corpse. This will be on your skill bar even without a Shaco because of the sacrilegious, just regular unique ring that we're using, so you won't have to put any points into that. And we're really just using that to get Fueled by Death in one of our Paragon nodes, and I'll have the full Paragon tree updated with the Tears of Blood glyph on D4 builds. That'll be linked in the description. But we're using that for Fueled by Death and for this Flesh Eater rare node that gives us just a lot of damage increase. Then, back to the skill tree. We are coming down from there. We're taking 3 into Death's Embrace. We're taking 3 into Death's Reach. 3 into Amplify Damage, and then we're taking 1 into Decrepify into Abhorrent. We're taking, which is just 1 point, we're up to 12 on it, but just 1 point into Corpse Tendrils, and then we're taking that into Plagued. We are taking 3 into Serration, 3 into Compound Fracture, 3 into Evulsion, and 2 into Rapid Ossification. This one you can play around with. This one's not a necessity. There's just kind of 2 free points you could throw around wherever, honestly. And then down to our ultimate skill tree here, we're taking Bone Storm into Supreme, and then we're taking 3 into Standalone, 3 into Memento, and then our key passive is the Ossified Essence, which is a huge damage increase. So that is the skill tree. Let's jump over into the Book of the Dead real quick. So we're sacrificing everything for our Skeletal Warriors. We're sacrificing the Skirmishers to get the 5% crit chance. For the mages, we are sacrificing Shadow, so we get 15 essence. And for the Golem, we are doing Iron to get the 30 times multiplicative crit strike damage, which is very nice. Then, as far as our Vampiric powers go, we are using Prey on the Weak, increased damage to vulnerable enemies. We're using Ravenous for the increased attack speed, and with the build we're running, this actually it's quite insane, and you're just able to throw out tons of Bone Splinters just everywhere, just doing tons of damage. We're using Metamorphosis mainly for the synergy with Tybalt's Will, using Resilience for the DR, and we're using Undying, which since we're casting so many skills is actually very, very good. This specific Vampiric power is kind of interesting. I'm using this, and I'm not sure when the Rogue video is going out, but I'm using on the Rogue. Anything with really high attack speed, this is very good. Not so good on things that are a little bit slower, you just don't get the same benefit, but if you're just constantly casting skills, this is fantastic. And these two help kind of solve some of the squishiness problems of Bone Spears of the past. So beyond that, let's jump into the gear. So as far as what we're using rubies in all of our armor, this counts as armor over here. We're using emeralds in our gear, or our weapons. This is all our gear. And then for our jewelry here, we're using a diamond in one just so we can get max resistances, and then skulls in the other. So helmet, I'm using a Shaco like I mentioned before. This is best in slot for this class, but if you don't have one, you can use the Deathless Visage, and this is actually quite good. It gives you a very nice damage increase. And what they did change was it also gives you DR now, so it can get up to 10%, so about half of what a Shaco gives you. So that is very nice. Obviously, a Shaco's a Shaco though. Moving now to our chest piece, we are pretty much just straight DR on this thing, plus total armor, and then we're using disobedience on it. For our gloves, we are using the splintering aspect, and we want attack speed, crit strike chance, ranks of bone spear, and lucky hit. For our pants, we're using Tibalt's, and the main thing here is we're using this to refill our resource. So I would definitely look for something with the highest kind of maximum resource roll you can get, and then something with the highest roll closest to 40 for the multiplicative damage. For our boots here, we are using Ghostwalker's aspect on it for increased movement speed, and that pairs again with Metamorphosis, so we're moving very fast. And we definitely want, we want movement speed, essence cost reduction, and ranks of corpse essentials. The other one, a little bit up in the air, I have, where's my guy sleeping? I have int, just for more damage basically, but you can also do like all stats, dodge chance, anything like that works. And then for our weapon, or let me go to the jewelry first and then down to the weapons slash, I guess, armor as well too. But for our amulet, we want movement speed, armor, essence cost reduction, then we want the Evulsion passive on here. That's going to give us the biggest damage increase. If you can't get that, you can look at getting one of the other ones or just something that's going to increase damage, but that is definitely the best one to get. And on there, we have Grasping Veins, which gives us a huge crit strike chance increase and a huge damage increase to enemies affected by corpse centrals. Down to our rings. So we have the regular unique ring, the sacrilegious ring that was added mid-season, kind of imitating those malignant powers. And on this thing, the main thing is just those bottom ones, getting them as close to perfect as possible. So you want, we're not using skeletons, so you want the corpse explosions going off as much as possible, and you want it auto-casting corpse tendrils as much as possible. The other thing you want to look at up here is specifically maximum essence you want a high roll on, and it would be nice for lucky hit. And then obviously very nice for max life too. The ranks of corpse skills honestly really don't matter on this. Then the other ring I'm using is the Starless Skies ring. So this is newer unique. This is the only build I'm using it on, and it actually works very nice in this. So basically the way you can see, it's got great affixes on it first of all. It's also got plus 12 to resistance to all elements twice instead of the usual once and then a specific element, so it helps us hit our resistance caps. So this has crit strike damage, core skill damage, and lucky hit chance, which is great. And then it says casting core skill reduces the cost, resource cost of your core skills by 12% up to a maximum of 40%. Resets upon using a non-core skill. So if that's what part of the reason why we're in here. So we have Bone Spear. It says we have it down to 19, which is pretty low already. But if we cast this a few times, you can see we go all the way down to 11 essence cost per Bone Spear, which is ridiculous. And the way our key passive works, the more essence we are above 50, the more damage we do, along with one of the aspects we're using. So this is actually very nice, and pairs also very well with the Sacrilegious ring, because as you can see, as I'm doing this, it's going to cast Corpse Tendrils right there, and it won't actually count as me casting a skill. However, you can see it's still at 11. Let's say I cast Bone Storm, it goes back up to 19. So having it auto cast it is very nice. So kind of you'll see in the gameplay loop later is we want to go in, maybe cast our own Corpse Tendrils, throw Decrepify on it, and then we start firing away, getting the essence cost as low as possible. So these pair very, very nice together, and it allows us to not have to worry about also like setting off corpse explosions. Just allows us to just fire off as many bone splinters as possible. So it's got great synergy, and these two rings really work well in tandem together. So now down to our, I should say, sorry, I want to give an alternative to this. It would be a ring like this. So you want crit strike damage, either vulnerable or crit strike damage with bone, and then maximum essence. Probably could drop the lucky hit. And here I actually have the serration aspect. And as we move down to our weapons here, I screwed up. Right now, I was trying out what does more damage, either Edge Masters or this aspect. And I actually used my last roll. So before the event starts, I'm actually going to have to go find another roll. This isn't too far behind if you don't have a good roll of this, but this serration aspect, is better. And we're going to put that on our weapon here. With that being said, when we go into bossing or single target, we're actually going to switch from, right now we're using Lidless Wall, which I should go over first, I'm sorry. Lidless Wall is a shield, and this is going to give us attack speed, lucky hit up to 16.5 chances to restore primary resource, max life, and max essence. And then the real kicker here is once we have a Bone Storm, we can create other Bone Storms. So you can see I put one out there, and then as you hit the enemy, another one forms there, and then you get it up for 10 seconds. So we basically, as we're going through kind of the mobbing portion, have infinite uptime of Bone Storm for the most part. And that gives us, one, it gives us a 15% damage reduction, which is very nice, and it gives us 20% crit chance, which when we pair it with our inherent crit chance, which is 41, plus 20, which is 61, plus another 30 every time corpse sensors are going off, which is constantly, we get over 90% crit chance, which is just absolutely nutty. So that's why we're using Lidless Wall, and then we are switching for single target over to a Grandfather. Now I tested both this and a regular two-handed sword with the same rolls I have on in here. All stats, intelligence, crit strike damage, and either vulnerable or crit strike with bone. And they seem to be about even, so you're not really losing any damage, but you are losing though, and why I'm going to end up using the Grandfather is because if they're pretty much equal, I'd rather take the 4,500 life, and that puts me over 2,000, which is the net positive. So the way our one-handed weapon is set up, we are going to want, like I said, all stats in crit strike damage and either vulnerable or critical strike with bone. And then on here, if you are running a Grandfather, you actually want this aspect of serration, which, like I said, I screwed up. Edgemaster's okay, but I tested them both, and instead of putting this back on the weapon, my last perfect roll, even though I had a bunch of them tested up and I wanted to do a bunch of testing, I accidentally put on the gloves, so I had to switch them back to splintering, and now I'm kind of stuck with Edgemasters on here until I can find another one, which I will before the event, but it won't really affect this video too much, and the right stuff will be in the planner. So if you are using, if you're not using a Grandfather, if you're just using a regular two-hander with the same stats here, but obviously being a two-handed sword, you're actually going to want to take this serration aspect, put it on the gloves, and then have the splintering aspect bolt on your one-hander and then your two-hander as well too, because that'll give you the maximum damage. So that is pretty much it for the gear. As far as the Paragon board goes, let me drag this over. As you can see here, so I have, just like all of them, I have the new Tears of Blood glyph in, and we're opting to put in the second one here because we're able to get a lot of int, and we also get a nice increase to all elements, which isn't as important, but mainly our bone skill damage, which is huge. So we are using Sacrificial. We're using obviously the new Tears of Blood, and we're going up to, we're going over. We're grabbing Flesh Eater, which works great with Sacrilegious Ring because it's constantly exploding corpses and giving us this bonus. And the glyph there is going to be Essence. Then up here we are using Control because we are putting Decrepify on things, and we're also using Corp Tendrils to both slow and stun and get that nice multiplicative damage. We're also taking Scent of Death, Legendary Node. Then over here we're just taking Exploit enough to get the bonus, which every time we hit a vulnerable enemy, which most of them will be, we'll get a 1% damage increase up to 10. So that is the Paragon board, and again, this will be in the description, fully filled out with the new glyph. And let me just move this back over and get this up. Okay, and beyond that, I think that's all we have besides just showing off the way the build works. So let me put these two back in here, so you and you can go back in there, and then we'll jump into some gameplay and you're going to see how this works. So kind of, there is one more thing I wanted to show down here. So not so much for mobbing, but when you're on single target, the way Bone Spear works is you'll see we'll shoot it out and it'll bounce back, and it'll be either 3 or 5 that bounce back. So you can see they're doing separate damage. So the way you want to do this is if you're facing a single target, you want to be right kind of towards the edge of where it bounces back, so as many of those either 3 or 5 splinters that come off and do a ton of damage. Hit them, you can see how much damage some of them do. And you can see, I mean, our crazy attack speed and just how the numbers aren't huge, but we're just spitting out damage. But yeah, that's what you want to do for single target. You want to be about this distance, give or take, and that should give you the best chance at most of them hitting most of the splinters hitting the target on the way back, which will massively up your damage against single targets, which this build is actually not the best at anymore, surprisingly. It used to be kind of the king of that. So let's do one of these dungeons here. Oh, definitely not suppressor. Let's do this one because I don't like, there's actually a bug with the bleeding damage over time or any physical damage, any resistance damage dealt as physical over time. It does way more than it should. So let's do this Vault of the Forsaken here and show off what this thing could do. So if we open up our map here, travel over there, and we'll show it off. And like I said, I'm going to be using this lidless wall one-headed setup for the beginning portion, and I'm not sure if this one has a boss fight. If there is, I will switch over to that grandfather just for the increased DPS. So you're going to see, once we see a pack of enemies, we're going to pop our Bone Storm, and you're going to see the uptime on this, excuse me. Oh, I actually don't like that pulse at all, but we'll make it work. What is this, a slay all? Okay, so you get to see it. I mean, you can just see, like, the damage numbers aren't huge, but the way it just spits out so much damage and the attack speed is so crazy, it makes it amazing. And our Bone Storm is still up, going on 30 seconds now. And I mean, I think during like a hell tide before, I've had it up for like 5 minutes straight. It's crazy. Because all you gotta do is basically, once you create these new ones, hit another enemy within like 10 seconds. It's up for 10 seconds. So as long as you hit an enemy, you pretty much create it most of the time. Like you pretty much get it most of the time if there's a little group of enemies. So you'll have it up basically the entire time you're mobbing, except for like here, like let's say, now we're going to run back here and try to get to this group before it goes down. But again, now our cooldown is reduced. So even if we don't get it, we can just cast it again, which I don't think we did. Did we get it? No, we didn't. And as you can see, let me pop this. Let me kill him. Let me go down here and let me pull up our crit chance and try not to die while doing so. Yeah, our crit chance it goes up to, what is that? 91.8, which is just insane. So basically every single cast is going to be critical strike, which is just insane. As you can see, we had Bone Storm active quite literally 100% of the time through that beginning portion. And we are in a race against time in this Abattior 0 event. And you can also see the healing we get from that Undying Vampiric power is also extremely nice because of how many attacks we're getting out. We're in a race against the time in the Abattior 0, and this is really good at clearing things fast. If we do need more damage, we will have to switch over to using a two-hander. But this absolutely, I mean, clobbers, even the bosses, it clobbers, this is, I mean, tier 98, but it clobbers tier up to tier 100s with ease. So, I mean, I don't see why we would need to switch over because we are getting that Tears of Blood increase to our damage, but if we do need more damage, we can always switch over to a two-hander, but we will lose the lidless wall. Let me see this sword. Hopefully it gives me the aspect that I screwed up and lost. I can't believe I did that. That was so dumb. I actually recorded like 10 minutes of the video too before realizing that I completely screwed it up. So yeah, we're not even getting the full effect on here because we have Edge Masters on, but it's not a huge difference. I was just doing a bunch of testing to see what would give us the highest damage output, and it was that serration aspect. Suppressors are a bit of a problem. I'm not going to lie to you. They've always been a problem for Bones here. What you want to do is make sure you use Corpse Centrals to gather them all up in there and take care of them. And then we got our chamber key, and let's take care of you. And there is a boss, so we can put on our two-hander. A quick swap, and we can come down here and cast our, this guy actually does a ton of damage. We can cast our thing, our Bone Storm, and then we can just fire all these at him. You can see we really have no problem with bossing either, and speed tiering. I mean, that's about as easy as it's gonna get, just to be honest. So I think this build is really good, and you can see my glyphs aren't even maxed out yet. I've been doing so many of these that I haven't had the chance to max out my glyphs. So this isn't even at full potential yet, and it's already so good. Grandfather also looks so sweet. But I hope you guys enjoyed. It's been the Butcher again. This is the third video that at least I'm recording. I'm not sure when they'll all get released in my series for every single class in the game when we take an Abattior of Zir. And I think this one is, I think Bone Spear is being slept on a little bit. It is really, really good, and I think we're going to be able to scale the damage a ton with that new glyph. I think Bone Spear is being slept on a little bit. I know kind of the kings right now are Hoda and Ball Lightning, which I have videos out on, but Bone Spear is a sleeper to maybe be like third, right behind them, and be super easy to play. It's still pretty fun to play as well too. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, the full gear, skill tree, Paragon board, everything will be in the description down below on d4builds.gg. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Stay tuned for the last couple of videos that will be coming out before the event for both the Druid and the Rogue classes. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.